Good morning. We are going to start. I'm calling to order this meeting of the House Committee on Children, Families, Finance, and Policy. Welcome to all. I know we've got a couple folks running a little bit late, but we're going to start as usual by having the clerk take the roll for those of us who are here.
Chair Pinto,
Present.
Vice Chair Keeler,
Present.
Representative Daniels, Representative Bliss, Representative Coulter,
Present.
Representative Davis,
Present.
Representative Hansen, Representative Hemmingson Yeager,
Present.
Representative Hicks,
Present.
Representative Hudson, Representative Katiza-Watoon, Representative Lee, Representative Nelson,
Present.
Representative Pettis Vega,
Present.
Representative Zalesnikar. We have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. I should note Representative Daniels, I know, is excused. I think a number of those other folks are just running late, so I'm sure they'll be joining us very shortly. We've got our minutes as usual. I'll ask Vice Chair Keeler if you would mind to move approval of our minutes of March 8th, 2023.
Yes, Mr. Chair, there are two changes that we will need to make. We need to add Representative Hudson onto the members present, and then there's just an adjustment on the second page, moving me from representative to Vice Chair Keeler.
Excellent.
But with those changes, I move the approval of the March 8th minutes.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Any other additions or corrections to those members? So hearing none, all in favor of approval of the March 8th minutes with the two corrections that Vice Chair Keeler made, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The motion passes. Those minutes are approved. Thanks so much. Members, we have four bills up today. We're going to start with Representative Hill's bill. We're going to change the order just slightly and have House File 2478 begin. And Vice Chair Keeler, if you wouldn't mind moving approval of House File 2478 to bring that before the committee.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And so, Representative Hill, welcome to the committee, and please begin presenting your bill. And I'd invite your testifiers to feel free to make their way up to the front as well and join you.
Yeah.
And you can start as they do that, Representative Hill.
We'll start with one, and we'll have another join us
Fair
here in a minute.
enough.
Thank you, Chair Pinto and members of the committee. Today, I bring before you Bill House File 2478, and this is an appropriation for Way to Grow. Way to Grow is a nonprofit organization that has operated for more than 30 years, supporting families with children from birth through age 8 here in the Twin Cities. And Way to Grow works with more than 1,800 individuals in the Twin Cities area and surrounding suburbs. And it provides year-round services every day to families and their communities. High-quality early childhood care and education remain elusive for many of our low-income families here in the cities. And the pandemic has exacerbated existing challenges and resulted in increased learning losses for our most precious resource, natural resource, our youngest learners. We have an opportunity to improve access to early childhood care and education for an increased number of low-income BIPOC families. Children who participate in high-quality programs during their early years have been found to experience positive long-term outcomes, such as higher rates of education completion, lower criminal justice system involvement, and lower rates of substance abuse. Studies show that a child's early years, right up through third grade, age 8, are critical in developing the physical, cognitive, social, and emotional skills that will make them more likely to succeed in school and go on to succeed in life. According to a report in MinPost in 2021, Minnesota ranks 4th out of 51 for the most expensive child care in our country. Meanwhile, many child care programs and centers operate on razor-thin margins, and our public school districts are not able to offer enough pre-K spots to fill this need. Way to Grow fills this need through its evidence-based early childhood and elementary education home visiting program that focuses on educating both parents and children, and it equips their parents to be their child's #1 teacher, exactly what we need. This model is designed to equip traditionally disinvested communities to achieve transformational outcomes. Investing in Way to Grow's Great by 8 early programming will help families build a strong foundation early, and will help to close the education gap before it even begins. This, of course, would result in higher lifetime outcomes and generational shifts that lift families out of poverty. And with that, I'm excited to turn it over to Carolyn Smallwood, who serves as the CEO for Way to Grow.
Ms. Smallwood,
Thank you.
you're welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm
Hey,
Carol
can I ask you to
Smallwood.
make sure the microphone is picking you up? Oh, there you go.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm Carolyn Smallwood. I am the CEO of Way to Grow. Over the last 3 decades, Way to Grow has been about the business of closing the achievement gap with our families. Thus far, we've been able to serve 11 different counties. To date, we are a very metric-driven organization that provide intensive one-on-one free home visiting services to over 1,800 people in the Minneapolis, Brooklyn Park area, and the 6 surrounding suburbs. We're proud of the work that we do. We're very metric-driven, meaning that we have proof that if we start early with children, children are going to succeed by the 3rd grade. We provide services to families prenatal to age 8, grade 3, following our children into about 35 Minneapolis public schools and 26 charter schools. The services we provide is intensive. Health education, early education, and elementary education. Our family educators provide one-on-one services with our parents. We believe that the parent is the primary educator of the child, okay? Imagine going into the home with books, curriculum, parents as teachers curriculum, science, math, and working one-on-one with the parent, their entire family. Imagine that, okay? A lot of our families do not have the resources. Way to Grow, with funders' support, the city support, and the county support, we've been able to provide over 11,300 home visits, okay? What's fantastic, though, is that we know what works, okay? We know what works. Over the last several years, our children, over 80% of our kids were being ready for school. Last year, we had an all-time high of 98% of our kids being ready for school, compared to the state average of 60% of all students in the state when it comes to early education. However, if you dig down with those numbers, if you go into low-income families or low-income children, it's only 35 to 40% of our kids are being ready for school. We're in a crisis, but what's positive, we have a tool that works. So that's why we want to expand our services. 81% of our parents attended a parent-teachers conference, okay? So we work with parents one-on-one to ensure that their kids are attending school, right? 89% of our babies were born at a healthy birth rate, and you know how important that is as well. So we have the numbers that work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And there's a second testifier as well. Make your way to the front if you can, please.
Up next, we have Ms. Sydney Bean, who is a
go.
parent in the program. So please, come on down.
This is one of our
What's-
wonderful
yeah.
parents that's been with us
Oh,
for the
Ms.
last
Smallwood.
7 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And please identify yourself to the next testifier and then proceed. Welcome.
Mr. Chair and members, my name is Sydney Bean.
Okay, please. Feel free to dive on in.
Oh,
Yeah.
am I just starting with?
You're starting with, yeah, you go
Yeah,
ahead and start.
Go for it.
Okay.
And we've got just like about a minute or two left in the time, just to say.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'm a mom of 5, and all of my kids have gone through Way to Grow from prenatal on. Our family educator is Allison Dakota, and she has been fantastic providing social, emotional support to my partner and I, and then to our children as well. And she brings in books every time we have a visit. The home visits are especially important. I actually have like generalized anxiety, and so having someone come into our home has been very beneficial for myself as well as my whole family. And then Allison has helped us with how to read to our kids and having fun in learning. And I think that's one of the most important things, is that it's fun. And then it's a big celebration when the kids graduate from pre-K.
Great, thank you so much, and thanks for sharing your experience. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to testify on the bill? Ask that first. Thank you so much. And then we'll move to member questions and discussion. Member questions or comments about the bill? Vice Chair Keeler, please.
Thank you, Representative Hill. I just have some questions about the home visiting program. Is that, like, how often do you go out and visit? Is there, we also have individuals who are very transient because of homelessness. How do you make sure that you're still helping them? Maybe they don't have a home to go do home visits for?
Yeah. Ms. Smallwood or Representative Hill?
Wonderful. Thank you, Chair Pinto, and thank you for the question, Vice Chair. A couple of things. The pandemic really allowed Way to Grow to expand the ways that they meet the needs of families and students in particular. But I do think it's probably best to turn it over to Ms. Smallwood.
Ms. Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Our families receive between 3 to 4 home visits a month, depending on how old the children are.
Okay. Okay. Vice Chair Keeler, all done? Okay. Other member questions or comments? Maybe I'll just ask, Ms. Smallwood, can you let us know how the program is funded currently?
Our program is funded by our foundations, individual donors. We receive funding from City of Minneapolis, as well as Hennepin County, and we receive funds from the Minnesota Department of Health as well.
And then also, about how many more families would you expect could be served with the appropriation being proposed here, the $300,000 per year?
About 150 families.
Okay, and sorry if you said that before.
No, I didn't.
Thank you. Okay, so any other questions or comments? Oh, it's Lesnicar. Representative Lesnicar, pardon me.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you. My question is, when I look at the, can you explain to me what your current operation revenue is compared to your expenses? I mean, what is your bottom line right now as far as I just want to know how that compares to what this ask is.
Oh,
Ms.
okay.
Smallwood.
Our current budget is about $4 million.
Yeah, and, okay. Representative Lesnicar.
Thank you, Chair Pinto. So what are your current expenses?
Our current
Ms. Smallwood.
expenses, oh,
We go through the chair, so the chair
Oh, I'm
identifies.
sorry.
No, that's okay, no problem. You were identified. Go for it. Ms. Smallwood.
can I go forward?
You're all good.
Okay, I'll look
Dive on
at
in.
you. I'm sorry. Our current expenses run around about $3.2 million.
Okay. Representative Lesnicar.
Thank you, Chair. So you're operating right now at a profit.
Ms. Smallwood.
Yes.
Representative Lesnicar.
So Chair Pinto, so my question is, we have at this committee so many programs to be looking at. I guess I just wanted to know if you're operating at a profit, why the $600,000 ask to this committee?
Let's direct that to the testifier. Ms. Smallwood,
Can I answer?
please, yeah.
The reason why it's $600,000 is primarily in order for us to expand services in other geographical areas. It costs us about $3,500 per family, right? It appears that we're operating at a temporary profit, primarily because we're building our organization in other geographical areas. On average, we're running our expenditures are running about $3.8 million. Per year. So we've had a campaign that has provided the surplus, and we're beginning to spend those dollars down because we're expanding into other areas. We have a goal to serve up to 300 to 400 more families within the next 2 to 3 years.
Representative Lesnicar.
Thank you, Chair Pinto. No further questions. Thanks.
Okay. And Representative Davis.
I just have one. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you're expanding it to a few hundred more families. And are those again, is that being expanded just within the area that you're currently reaching, or are you reaching out to greater Minnesota?
Ms. Smallwood?
Currently, we're operating in 11 different counties. And as we move forward, we definitely would entertain the idea of moving across the state wider if we receive the funding. And this is a gradual process for us.
Could you give us a sense of the scope of those counties, Ms. Smallwood? You mentioned Minneapolis, Brooklyn Park, I believe, so that'd be Hennepin County, but then the other 10 counties, just give us a sense as to where they are.
Yeah, we have Hennepin County, Dakota County, Washburn, we out east in St. Paul, some areas in that area as well, Carver County.
Okay, okay.
Yep. And we've been able to do that basically through our virtual home visit as a result of the pandemic.
Okay. Representative Davis? No? Okay. Okay, so I think we are all set, and Lee Daniels not being here, I'm not gonna, won't call on him, but we'll give Representative Hill the last word on his bill.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chair Pinto, and thank you, members. Again, I just want to highlight the value of programming like Way to Grow. And the evidence has pointed us in the direction to prove that this investment is going to benefit our communities to well over $9 of impact. So every dollar will generate $9 plus of impact that will serve our communities and help our young people enter into life with the best possible opportunities to grow, develop, and be important and integral parts of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Hill, and Ms. Smallwood, thanks so much for your important work. Appreciate you being here. And with that, the chair lays over House File 2478 for possible inclusion in the committee's budget bill. Thank you. And we're going to move, I think, okay, so we're going to, Representative Hill, I think we're waiting for something on your second bill, and so we're going to have you wait a little bit if that's okay. Oh, we do have it. Okay, actually, you know what, Representative Hill, I guess it sounds like we have what we needed for your bill after all. So, yeah, why don't you stay on up there then, and we will get to your second bill as well then. So this is House File 2281, and I think I'll ask Vice Chair Keeler if she can to move House File 2281 and bring that before the committee.
I move House File 2281 before us, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And then Representative Hill, you do have a author's amendment, the A1. Is that correct, Representative Hill? You want us to move that?
Yes, that would be the motion.
Okay. Looks like just a technical, just a tweak. And Vice Chair Keeler, you willing to move the A1 amendment?
I move the A1 amendment.
Okay, members, any discussion to the A1? So hearing none, all in favor of the A1 amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So the bill is amended in the way you wish, Representative Hill, and please proceed with presenting your bill.
Wonderful. Thank you. Very briefly, thank you, Chair Pinto and members of the committee. Very briefly, I want to move and walk through House File 2281, which addresses early learning licensure and the ability for those who serve in these roles to join their local bargaining units. Section 1 of this bill requires licensure for all of our early learning programs and their practitioners. And currently in Minnesota, we have a number of school-based early learning programs that do require licensure. And these include School Readiness Plus, also early childhood family education programs. Other programs, however, do not require this licensure, and those include voluntary pre-K and also some school readiness programs. This became more urgently needed after a law passed in 2017 included language that created a voluntary pre-kindergarten program without licensure requirements. Now, many districts do post jobs that have, quote, a highly desired qualification attached. But since it's not a requirement in statute or the district, the position is not eligible to join the local existing bargaining unit. This does a few things, but it goes on to harm the teachers in the program as they are vulnerable and can often be paid much less than other licensed teachers. And it also has the potential of interfering with the age-appropriate delivery of instruction, especially if the teacher does not have the proper training in brain development and play-based learning that's appropriate for children of this age. Section 2 of this bill allows these teachers to be members of their local teachers bargaining unit, and it is regardless of their licensure. And it allows for units that have been organized by unions that are currently existing for those individuals to remain with those unions. For example, SEIU Local 284 has organized the early childhood and early learning programs in Hopkins, and this language would allow for them to stay with their union. Section 2 also in House File, Section 2 is also found in House File 1690 and 1691. And these bills have been heard in the House Education Policy, State Government, Judiciary, and Labor Committees. Section 2 is also included in Chair Pryor's Education Omnibus Bill. Again, here's the current reality. Most voluntary pre-kindergarten teachers are licensed, but with openings and postings that say they prefer a licensed educator, rarely hire someone without a license. And so that's not the issue. The issue is that this technicality allows for these teachers to remain vulnerable. It allows our youngest learners to be in a situation where they may be served with someone that does not have the proper preparation and training. So with that, we have a few folks that have signed up to testify, and I'd like to turn it over to them.
That sounds good. Let's have those folks. Okay. And so I'm going to call up Sarah Craig first. I'll have you come up first, and I'm going to change the order just slightly. And then once you get settled in, please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Sarah Craig.
Yeah, please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Chair Pinto and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Craig, and I've been a proud teacher in my district for more than 10 years. I hold a Minnesota state license in pre-primary education as well as elementary education. I hold a master's degree from St. Catherine University. I could write a book about the importance and value of early education. I'm guessing if you're part of this committee that you know the enormous impact of early education and early intervention on children. Preschool children deserve professional, licensed teachers. We work in tandem every day with other professional service providers, such as licensed school nurses, occupational therapists, psychologists, etc. We are required to be individual education plan team members for all of our students who receive special services. 1/3 of the students in our preschool classrooms are on IEPs. Preschool children deserve teachers who have a high level of knowledge and understand the complexities of the developmental continuum. 3 times a year, we rate our students on over 50 objectives based on MDE's early childhood progress indicators of progress. With this information, we work to individualize each child's learning path so that no matter where they start, they're moving forward in all areas of development. Until recently, all teachers in South Washington County schools were required to be licensed, from our ECFE teachers who work with infants and parents to our adult basic education teachers. This changed in 2018 when our school board, under the recommendation of our then superintendent, voted to no longer require state licensure for teachers in our preschool program. This decision de facto expunged 23 teachers out of a contract and out of the district's teacher union. Previously, preschool teachers had been in the same salary scale, had worked for tenure status, and had the same responsibilities, rights, and benefits as our colleagues. Since this vote, many preschool teachers found other positions either in K-12 or outside of our district. Our youngest learners deserve teachers who are licensed and meeting their needs. This loophole needs to be closed now so that preschool children can benefit from the best teachers that our state has to offer. So why is this necessary? South Washington went as far as saying we could no longer call ourselves teachers. They were stripping that title from us so we couldn't form our own union. Well, we fought that, and we did end up forming our own union. So why is this necessary if we formed our own union? Our early learning unit is small and does not have the same power in numbers as we would as part of the main teacher union. This has created a 2-tier system for those who were hired before 2020 and lower salary for those hired after that date. As far as I am aware, all of my preschool colleagues hold a license, yet the district uses the statute to treat us differently. My question is this the kind of employment environment we want to have in schools in the state of Minnesota? Do we want teachers of some of our youngest students who are in a crucial stage of development to fight to show their worth despite being fully licensed and with post-baccalaureate degrees? Changing this law is the best way to get preschool children the educational experiences that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your work. Thanks for being with us. I'm going to call up Dominic Kirkpatrick, please, as the next testifier. Okay. Hi, and please identify yourself. Are you Dominic Kirkpatrick?
I am.
Okay, good. Well, welcome. It's so glad to have you, and please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Pinto and committee members. My name is Dominic Kirkpatrick. I'm a teacher on special assignment, currently serving as president of both the Eden Prairie Education Association and the Eden Prairie Preschool Education Association. This morning, I am here to lend my voice of support for House File 2281. Currently, our state has two of the necessary components to fulfill the mission set by the Minnesota Department of Education to have a highly skilled workforce to serve our youngest learners. First, our institutions of higher ed continue to research and design and prepare educators in the specialized pedagogy needed to have highly effective teachers for our youngest learners. And secondly, PELSB recognizes and certifies the education and the skills of those individuals before issuing that highly specialized early learner teaching license, such as a birth to grade 3 teaching license. But a critical component is currently missing from the equation: the requirement for licensing of preschool teachers and the subsequent definition of teacher under Minnesota state statute. This has become a problematic component for staff, administrators, and students alike. In many districts like my own, preschool classrooms and kindergarten classrooms are in the same elementary schools, side by side. We have educators who have graduated from the same universities, hold the same degree, and hold the same Minnesota teaching license. Yet, depending on which classroom that educator is in, determines whether or not that educator is deemed certified teacher or not. That definition of teacher dictates whether or not the educator is an at-will employee, how they are or are not bound by probationary periods, what salary and benefits they receive, and whether or not they have rights to join the bargaining unit with other staff who also hold Minnesota teaching licenses. And as a result, the mission to have highly trained and effective educators for our youngest learners is failing, because we are seeing those educators who love engaging with those preschool students leave the preschool classrooms to teach kindergarten right next door, or third grade 3 doors down. And we are seeing administration having to lower their expectations in the hiring processes to get an adult into that preschool classroom.
And I'll maybe ask you to wrap up the next minute if you can.
Thank you. In addition, we're seeing high turnover rates and instructors who are lacking the adequate preparation. As the only public preschool option for families in my community, that is unconscionable. And so I thank the authors of the bill who bring this important bill to light, not only for the high-quality preschool education our youngest learners deserve, but also for the inclusion of the collective bargaining rights and the grow your own teacher aspects, for which it is crucial to promote the return of the already licensed educators back into our preschool classrooms. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your testimony and your work. Before you leave, I think the representative from Eden Prairie possibly had, do you want something now? Yeah, Representative Katiz-Watun.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Dominic, for coming in, Ms. Kirkpatrick, excuse me, to coming in and speaking on this today. It was something that I was gonna address as well, but it's so great that you are here to kind of shed a little bit more light than I could have possibly done on an issue that I'm hearing from our preschool teachers on a weekly basis. I'm a mom of a 2.5-year-old, so I'm frequently at our lower campus building and in touch with all of our ECFE and parent educators and preschool teachers, and it's a big concern. And I understand that we've lost wonderful teachers to districts surrounding who are paying more or able to pay more. I know that we the preschool program has, just like you mentioned, shifted, and teachers have moved to the elementary classrooms. And I think that this is common sense. And I guess to Representative Hill, I just
Actually, hold on a second, because we do have another testifier, and so I want to get to member.
apologize.
Yeah, no problem. I had called on you because I thought you just wanted to give an Eden Prairie Eagles shout out to the testifier.
Okay, nope.
So maybe we'll get back to you if that's okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
certainly.
thanks.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Kirkpatrick, thank you so much. Good. And then we've got final testifier Brianna Ostoff as public testifier, so a slightly different situation. And so come on up, and once you get settled in, please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony. We've got just probably about 2 minutes we can do, so please, welcome.
I'm Bree Ostoff. Thank you, Chair and committee members. My name is Bree Ostoff, and I serve as the Director of Community Education for Farmington Area School District. Today, I represent Minnesota Community Education Association in sharing that we have concerns about House File 2281. Specifically, Section 1 will provide challenges to school districts and early childhood workforce. Currently, the bill states that any person providing instruction for a school district or charter school-based early education program must have a Minnesota teaching license by July 2027. This provision will require any current early education instructor without their early education license in a school district or charter school to go to college to obtain an early education teaching license. Many of these instructors will have to become full-time undergraduate students for 4 years and take a leave to complete the student teaching requirements. Under the current bill, there is no legacy clause to support many current early education instructors who don't have teaching license. Many of these teachers have put in years of working in preschool classrooms. They have attended their school district's yearly trainings. They have trained in implementing curricula. They have developed curricula, and many have attained early childhood trainings provided by early childhood professionals. Currently, in the field of early childhood education, especially pre-kindergarten, there's a large group of instructors who will leave the field rather than go back to school for many reasons. Most people under 20 years away from retirement are saving for their retirement or paying for their children to go to college. The difficulty to go back to school for the short time left in their careers would not be worth the financial and time debt it would cost them. Others in the profession have found this career after they've been stay-at-home parents and they have degrees in other fields, but they stayed because they love kids. They will leave to go to work in a profession of their original degrees rather than go back to school. Lastly, we have many people in this profession who started as assistants and have worked their way up, trained by us as districts. They entered the workforce without college degrees because it is what they needed to do to support themselves and their families. They do not have the funds or time to go back to school full-time or the ability to go unpaid for a semester during student teaching. While the Tier 1 and Tier 2 pathways is available for these early learning instructors, it only prolongs the inevitability if they choose not to go back to school. Districts will only employ a Tier 1 or Tier 2 teacher for so long because there are time limits on these tiers. Also, every year, a district will need to post their position and wait to establish that they cannot find a licensed early educator and prove that they were not able to fill the position.
And we'll ask you to wrap up if you can. Thanks.
Yep, and I've experienced this loss in other programs. Early education, childhood education cannot afford a mass exodus at this time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your testimony. Thanks for your work. Is there any other member of the public who wishes to testify? So not seeing any, so we can finally go back to Representative Katiza-Watun, so you can ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Representative Hill, for bringing this bill forward. I'm signed on as a co-author. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I wanted to say I'm particularly grateful that we've included the section on exemptions so that people who are currently working in these school or charter school-based settings, that they have 4 years to get their degree in place so that, they don't have to step away from this role. And I think that sort of addresses what the last testifier just brought forward. I know it's a time time-based situation, but I hope that with some of the other solutions that I know that you and Chair Pryor are working through in the Education Policy Committee this year, that we can help mitigate any sort of mass exodus in this arena. But I really appreciate you bringing this bill forward.
Thank you, Representative Katiza-Batun. Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Chair Pinto, and thank you, Representative Hill. In listening to this, I have great concern for rural Minnesota. We're in a workforce shortage. I've had my kids in home-based programs, and I've had them in center-based programs in rural Minnesota. And I think it's going to be very concerning. While we are giving people in this bill 4 years, that's not the path everybody wants to take. And there's some excellent early childhood instructors that don't have a 4-year degree right now. And in a workforce that we have right now, I think this is very short-sighted. It's going to hurt rural Minnesota tremendously. At a time when we don't have the programs available to people, it is not set up the same way as Minneapolis, St. Paul. We don't have in the suburb area the access to as many programs. In some of the communities, there aren't anything. And so to limit the people that have been daycare providers or other experienced people, mothers and fathers that have phenomenal skill set and have taken classes and learned for this early childhood learning, I think that's a real miss for Minnesota to not have those people available, and to force them to get a 4-year degree is not, I think, the path we need to go. And we're talking about early childhood learning here, and I think that each district has the opportunity then to determine what their needs are, because they know their community. They know what their community needs is. And if I'm listening to the presenters, most have the certification, so it's available to them. And then in many fields, there's always a pathway where people move between things. It's that way in healthcare. LPNs become RNs. There's CNAs become LPNs. They move in different roles between preschool and kindergarten teachers and different things. And the pay grades are going to be different for scope and responsibility, and also for what the district needs are and what the geographic area needs. So I just have great concern that we are taking away people that have already proven themselves to be great in preschool. So I would caution us on what we're really going to accomplish. And while we may have some great accomplishments in one area, it's going to significantly hurt rural Minnesota.
And I'll invite Representative Hill to respond if he wishes.
Yes, and thank you, Representative, for the comments and the concern. A couple of things that I want to point out. Number one, I am certainly open. It is our hope that this bill is laid over to be considered in the future, and I am certainly open to ongoing dialogue to finding the right balance point, should there be one out there that could emerge with legacy language, as, forgive me, I don't want to mispronounce her last name, Ms. Ostor spoke about. This is important. Another point I'd like to make is that there is no intention of harming greater Minnesota or any region of Minnesota as we work through this. Our hope here is to making sure that, as you said, we are certainly addressing early childhood education and our most important opportunity to invest in our young people. And so finding that right landing spot and making sure that our students are getting what they need, and also ensuring that our practitioners are receiving what they have earned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Looks like Representative Zalesnikar, maybe you want me to go back to you, Representative Zalesnikar, move on? Okay, you all good. Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Hill. You mentioned the right balance point. To me, the right balance point is local control, allowing the independent school district to have the control over this issue, because I believe right now they can already require this of early learning educators, can they not?
Representative Hill.
Thank you, Chair Pinto. Representative, yes, that is an opportunity that districts individually have. I think that the reason why this bill is so important, in the issue has been a light has been shown on this issue, is that because of this technicality, these teachers are left in a vulnerable position. And what I've seen during my nearly 25 years as a public education teacher is that when our colleagues are in vulnerable positions, it's our students who suffer. And so working to provide the conditions on the ground that our teachers deserve, in so ensuring that they have the training they need to provide the best possible outcomes for our kids. That's what we are seeking with the outcome here. Thank you.
Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that is the goal. What's best for the child, and this is a one-size-fits-all approach again. The local school district knows what's best for their kids, and if the parents don't like that, they'll put in a new school board. They'll put in new leadership. This is going to hurt, as Representative Zaliznikar already brought up. This is potentially going to very much hurt Greater Minnesota. And again, we have another example of the heavy hand of government coming down with rules and regulations saying, we're going to make you do this, whether you want to or not. They already have the authority to do that. Let's continue to empower our school districts locally to make this decision for themselves. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to move to Representative Coulter.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Representative Hill, for bringing this forward. And, you know, I guess the way I approach this bill is, I think, very much in the same sort of vein that we've had a lot of conversations in this committee, in that really it is time for us to be treating early childhood care and education in many ways the same way we treat K-12 education. We have statewide standards for licenses and so on that every K-12 teacher in the state of Minnesota has to abide by. And I don't know that I hear anybody saying that that's a problematic position, that we shouldn't have these statewide standards, and I think we should. And, you know, we've spent a lot of time talking in this committee about how important early care and education is in terms of the amount of brain development that occurs and all of that. So if anything, these standards, that we should expect of our teachers, if anything, to me, that's more important for early care and education. And I think that's why Section 1 is so critical in this bill. And, you know, in terms of the exact language as far as folks who are doing the work now, I think certainly Representative Hill indicated a willingness to work on that, and I think there is some room to work on that. But I think Section 2 is also really, really important because it ensures that folks who are doing this work are able to join their bargaining unit, that they're able to get the pay and the benefits and all the other things that teachers should expect. And so I think, you know, like I said, what it really comes down to is just recognizing that early childhood teachers are teachers and should be treated the same way we treat every other teacher in the state of Minnesota. Thank you.
Okay. Representative, I saw Representative Perez-Vega, and then we'll grab Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. Representative Hill, I appreciate the extended time for those teachers, preschool teachers that are not licensed, to have the accessibility and ability to have a couple years to work on this, you know, the process of, and also the ability for a lot in my community, in our district, we have a lot of preschool teachers that are not English-speaking teachers that are working with children who don't speak English while they're learning English at the same time. These are the programs that only give an amplification of the support that those teachers need in that environment alongside those children to grow. And it's an opportunity where you're giving access through this bill time. I mean, you're seeing July 1st, 2027, where teachers that are voluntary maybe be a little scared that, oh, I don't know if I can obtain this license. I don't know if the challenges I'm up to face, but it's allowing opportunity for them to receive better pay, better benefits, and be a part of being honored with that license. And I'm really supportive of this in regards to that, giving them the opportunity to get their license by 2027. Thanks.
Thank you. Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take the bait, Representative Coulter, and go ahead and say that, yeah, I do think there are issues with the K-12 system and that are caused in no small part by the top-down centralized one-size-fits-all approach to that system, and I think it's reflected in part by, on the low end, on the generous end, 50% of our students not being able to read at grade level. That's indicative of a systemic failure. This bill seems intent upon, I mean, the only folks who we know are going to benefit from it are the union. They're going to benefit. Whether or not it's going to be of benefit to the students or the teachers is an open question. But I think when we contemplate the fact that there is local control, this is an option that's already available to school districts. If we assume that they're acting in good faith, and we assume that their desire is the best possible outcomes for students and parents in their community, which I think is a very fair assumption, then we should accept the fact that those who have chosen not to mandate this have done so because in their judgment it's going to provide the best outcomes for their students. And you know, this has the potential to have the impact of increasing cost and operational difficulty for districts in a time when ironically we're looking for ways to expand the pool of teachers in the K through 12 system, provide alternative paths, alternative licensure. So we've already recognized in the K through 12 system that we need to make it easier to approach these positions rather than increase the standards in order to make it more difficult. I do have one question for the author or any of his testifiers. When we talk about, there's language in here on line 113 referring to school-based early education programs. What all does that include? Would that include things like child care centers that are providing school readiness or VPK as part of a mixed delivery system?
And that may be something that our House research can help with. Representative Hill, would you rather do that? Ms. Mock, we'll see if you can help shed some light on that.
Thank you, Chair Pennell. Why don't we start there?
Okay, we'll do that. Ms. Mock, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So these would only be teachers who are actually employed by a school district or a charter school.
And so Representative Hudson, hopefully that's helpful. Okay, good. Yep, thanks. Okay, so Representative Hill, you get the last word on your bill.
Well, once again, I want to thank you, Chair Pennell, for hearing the bill, and for members of the committee for the opportunity for this rich dialogue. A couple of things come to mind as I bring this to a close. Number one, it's not in dispute. There's nobody in this room at your table that won't agree that investing in our youngest learners is key and wise and the right thing to do, in my estimation. What we need to ensure is that local communities, local school districts, local teams of administrators have the opportunity to do the right thing by the professionals. And I use that term on purpose. I do use it with intention. The professionals who stand before these kids. I've had the opportunity to take part in early childhood programming as a parent. I've had the opportunity as a colleague to see these folks in action. And I've had the opportunity in another role that I fulfilled to go on home visits with early childhood educators to see the incredible work that they do. It's integral to the work that we do in serving our kids and ensuring that the next generation has everything they need to become the people they want to be. So I urge your support, and thank you for the opportunity, Chair Pinto.
Thank you, Representative Hill. Thanks to the members for the discussion. With that, the chair lays over House File 2281 as amended for possible inclusion in committee budget bill. And thanks to your testifiers, to all of them, for their work. So I'm going to bring up Representative Hassan, House File 2514. And I will ask Vice Chair Keeler, if I can, to move House File 2514 to bring that before the committee.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Representative Hassan, I don't see any authors' amendments. Welcome to the committee, and please present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present House File 2514, which supports the YWCA Minneapolis Early Childhood Education Program. As we all know, early learning is important, and here is reasons why early learning is important, especially for children from lower income families. They're less likely to repeat a grade in school. They're less likely to be identified as having special needs, more prepared academically for later grades, and more likely to graduate from high school and more likely to be higher earners in the workforce. House File 2514 supports the YWCA Minneapolis Early Childhood Education Program, which provided engaging, holistic early learning environment for infants to school-age children. YWCA program nurtures positive social, emotional, and academic habits in children through stimulating activities, nutritious food, and anti-bias curriculum. They offer a full-day childcare program that are 4-star rated and parent-aware. They also provide they also take kids to field trips to cultural and historical sites throughout the community. In 2019 to 2020, YWCA Minneapolis exceeded outcome for the 720 students they serve, with 91% of their preschoolers entering kindergarten proficient in school readiness program. So House File 2514 asks for appropriation for $550,000 one-time grant to YWCA Minneapolis to support early childhood education. And with that, Mr. Chair, I have a couple testifiers who are gonna explain more of this appropriation and what the impact of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I invite your testifier to come on up. And once you get settled in, identify yourself, please, and then proceed with your testimony.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I think it's just me, unless you have specific questions. We have some others who may be able to speak to them better.
Okay.
So
we are good at specific questions in this
Thank you.
committee, so we'll get
Good morning, Chair Pinto and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Luna Allen Bakarian, and I serve as the Public Policy Manager for YWCA Minneapolis. We are grateful to be here this morning, and it is good to see several of you again whom we saw at Minnesota Child Care Association Day on the Hill, or whom we've met with individually previously. I'm here to speak in support of House File 2514 in support of our organization. I'd like to take this time to tell you more about our work, specifically about our early childhood education. YWCA Minneapolis is one of over 200 local associations under YWCA USA, all sharing the same mission of eliminating racism, empowering women and girls, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. YWCA associations nationwide work toward this mission in our community in a variety of ways. Our organization, YWCA Minneapolis, uplifts our mission in several ways, impacting over 15,000 Minnesotans in our last fiscal year. One of the primary ways we do so is through early childhood education. We run 5 early childhood education centers in Minneapolis and St. Paul for children aged 6 weeks through school age. 2 centers are located within our downtown and midtown health and wellness center buildings in Minneapolis. One is located at Abbott Northwestern Hospital in the district of the lead author. This is a site that remained open during the height of the pandemic, serving emergency workers. Our other centers continued to open in waves to support families, meaning that several of our educators were eligible for last year's frontline worker payments. And 2 are located in St. Paul, one out of the Hub's Lifelong Learning Center on University, represented by co-author Hussein, and one out of the Ecolab building in downtown St. Paul in the district of Representative Perez Vega. Our centers support families across diverse identities, and our enrollees include CCAP-eligible families, families receiving income-eligible scholarships provided by us, and private pay families. The young people who spend their days at YWCA Minneapolis ECE sites engage in high-quality play-based curriculum that teaches about difference in developmentally appropriate ways. They take swim lessons, they learn about wellness, and they engage with neighborhood environments. All families in their first year of ECE care at YWCA Minneapolis are offered free memberships to our health and wellness centers. Like many early childhood education centers, challenges we've faced in recent years include drops in enrollments, struggles to recruit educators, cuts in funding, and working to increase educator salaries without increasing rates for families. Because these challenges are intertwined with the other policy areas and bills that this committee and the legislature at large is considering this session and beyond, we are active members of several coalitions working on the intersecting issues of early childhood education affordability, increased teacher salaries, and increased supports for recruitment and retention of teachers of color in our state. I am in awe of my colleagues who lead our classrooms. Children leave our programs ready for their next steps in kindergarten and beyond, having received the bonus quality care that comes from culturally informed teaching. Our need for funding stems from a few key areas. One of our larger funders pulling back a large portion of funding in order to support internal programs, seeing increased social emotional needs in the children and families we serve, which requires more supports for families and staff, a continued need for scholarships for the families who are moving off of benefits but still require some support for paying for care in a private pay capacity, and our annual occupancy costs continuing to rise, likely to the tune of at least $200,000. Excuse me. We are seeking an appropriation to continue to bolster the over 450 families who benefit from our ECE programs, confident that the ripple effects into our communities are tenfold. Thank you very much for hearing our bill. I strongly encourage your support, and on behalf of our organization, thank you for the work you are doing daily for our youngest Minnesotans.
One, thank you for the work that you're doing daily. It's really important. So glad to have you here.
Thanks to our teachers.
To your teachers, to the great work they do. Any member of the public wishes to testify on this bill, first of all? So not seeing any member questions or discussion at all. Members? Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You touched on it briefly. Why this appropriation is necessary in spite of the fact that, as a 4-star rated program, I assume that you're receiving the maximum amount of early learning scholarships and receiving CCAP reimbursements, and we've now are in the process of making permanent the child care stabilization grant. So there's all sorts of funding that other child care providers in the state are receiving, you're receiving as well. And so the reason to provide this particular appropriation that's available directly and explicitly for YWCA Minneapolis is because you've had, if you could just restate that for me, because you've had some contributors who've pulled back funding?
Ms. Ellen Dickerman.
I'm actually going to invite our Vice President of Early Childhood Education to speak to that, but I also do want to point out, I think we sit in a unique spot because of supports, again, for families who are between benefits and private pay, especially as private pay rates continue to increase. But Stephanie, do you want to speak
Yeah,
to
come
that?
on up, and yeah, and once you sit down, if you could just identify yourself before beginning to answer Representative Hudson's question.
Thank you, Chair Pinto and committee members. I'm Stephanie Thomas from the YWCA, Minneapolis. Sorry, and yes, I think that's a portion of it. We are unique. Our child care programs had a loss last year, even with those grant supports and NACE funding and those pieces, and they were budgeted for a loss this year. We are having an increased occupancy cost that they've identified already for us for the next. It'll be ongoing, but next year. And one of our major funders had to focus their funding internally to maintain what they were doing with kids, and so those two things can't be quickly shifted. So we're asking for this to have us continue to develop what needs to be developed in the future to be able to support that ongoing need without having an impact to our community that we serve. Our programs are also unique, as Luna pointed out, in that we serve a lot of families who do get CCAP, who do get assistance, but we also serve those families who, as they're maintaining jobs and getting off of assistance, have that cliff effect, where we then step in as an organization to assist them in being able to maintain childcare. And so, in able to do that, it does require us to raise ongoing funds to support that, and we're seeing that need continue and increase.
Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you anticipate that you'll be able to identify ways to raise or manage ongoing funds in the future so that we won't have to continue to appropriate state funds?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name.
Thomas. Yeah.
Thomas, Ms. Thomas.
Yes. We have an organizational advancement department that will be working on that because of those quick shifts and the place we're in with people going back to work and the supports that we need along with that, all that's going on in the community. But that's our goal, and that's what we have been able to do in the past.
Representative Hudson.
Thank you.
Okay. Representative Holziker.
Thank you, Chair Pinto, and thank you. My question is on the funding structure. Is there a percentage change that happened from whether it's, I don't know if you call it corporate sponsorships or the relationship you have with businesses and various entities that bring in monies for for the YWCA. Is there a percentage that changed from 2020 to 2021 to 2022? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Ms. Thomas.
Yeah, I don't know if I have an answer to a percentage change. We have ongoing development and a specific funder who had determined an ongoing gift for us and then was not able to do that because of their own internal needs, that they just did not fund anyone in early childhood. They shifted that funding. I don't know the answer to your percentage question.
Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Chair Pinto. Thank you. And maybe I could just ask you, how much do you depend on from philanthropy or other entities? How much is in your budget for that?
I bet a significant proportion, but let's see. Ms. Thomas.
I mean, across all of our programs, there's a lot of different ways. I mean, some is donated space, some is, money given directly to scholarships, some to program, but we raise over $1 million.
Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Chair Pinto. So the $550,000 one-time grant is covering a gap from funding that was there from a private donor.
Ms. Thomas.
Public donor, and not solely that, but yes, I mean, there's that. There's also the fact that some space that we had is now going to be a cost because, again, many businesses can no longer just give free space anymore. So there's increased cost in occupancy. There is that one funder and an increased need from our families to continue to fund people, as food is more expensive and all these other pieces. Our parents are having a larger gap if they're not on assistance in being able to meet the needs of childcare. So those scholarships assist with that.
And I do want to go to the bill's author, Representative Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative. As someone who has a 3-year-old in preschool and have had her in childcare during the pandemic, I can tell you that those rates kept going up, and it's as much as my mortgage now. So there is that need for families, an increased need for families, because if you have to choose between taking your child to childcare and paying your mortgage, and if you don't take your child to childcare, then who's going to go to work and earn that money to pay for your mortgage? So I think that as you know, our world gets more expensive and our income is stuck and it's not increasing. Families are really, the need for support for families is imminent right now.
Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Chair Pinto, and thank you, Representative Hassan. And I understand that. I just wanted to understand the sources of the funding, because what I struggle with is when we as a committee are giving grant money and an organization has people making $100,000, several of them, and a CEO making over $200,000, that is a business model, and it's no different than the for-profit business. And so it is through a grant that's important. But I struggle with that because I, too, want to make sure we have children cared for. But this is, when we're looking at healthcare issues, we have people in for-profit, nonprofit settings, whether it's nursing homes or others, they're not making anything close to this. So we have, I think, a responsibility to look at where we're funding our money and then what the responsibility is within the leadership, whether it's a grant, we're funding it. And so we have a responsibility to look at that. And I would hope that the YWCA would, I'm not questioning the intent of the program or anything like that. I'm just making a statement that I think is concerning. And I'm asked that many times by citizens. Why is this? And so I don't have the answer for that. And I'm not making a statement that what they do is not valuable, but is this the system we're going to have where we're funding through grants, which is through state of Minnesota money and taxpayer money, salaries that are exceeding the private business too. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move on, I think, unless I don't think we had anybody else signed up at this point, so I'm going to do that. Representative Lee, you had, I would want to be quick if you can, because we've got one more bill to hit, but did you have something quick?
Sure. Yeah, I can be very, very quick. I think I just want to refocus the discussion on the impact of what this money will do. And if anyone has managed nonprofit funding before, there are restrictions on like the money that you get, and there are also restrictions on administrative fees. And so, you know, I think we want people to be properly compensated. And I think whatever the salary is of folks, right? It doesn't, because you guys braid in private funding and foundational funding, doesn't necessarily mean that this money is going to go pay for a CEO's salary. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we remember that as a committee, we've talked a lot about how the return on investment when we invest in our children under 5 actually benefits society as a whole, you know, up to 13, 16 times more later. And so I want to make sure folks keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lee. Yeah, and Representative Hassan, I will give you the final word on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for this wonderful conversation. As opportunity gaps between our poorest and richest Minnesotans become larger than ever, it's our duty to make sure that children are ready for kindergarten and that they get the quality care that they need and exposure to early childhood education when they enter in that classroom. Because what is happening right now is that we keep talking about the disparities that exist in education, but those disparities start before even our kids step into these classrooms. And it's, as state leaders, we can do something about that. We can reduce those disparities, and early childhood education is the key. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Representative Hassan, and to your testifiers. Thanks for your really important work. We really appreciate it. Thank you. And with that, the chair lays over House File 2514 for possible inclusion in the committee's budget bill. And then the final bill, Representative Pryor, come on up. House File 1994. I'm going to ask ask Vice Chair Keeler to move House File 1994 to bring that before the committee as well.
I move House File 1994 before us.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and Representative Pryor. So glad to have you back with us. And please, I see no author's amendments, so please dive into presenting your bill.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for committee for hearing my bill today. I want to talk about ParentChild Plus. This is a group that I first learned about back in 2017. A couple of folks came to my office to describe about this incredible program that is very much evidence-based. It's got a long history, but it's always a part of that history has always been about best practices. And so what this does, ParentChild Plus, is you have trained, qualified individuals that can go into homes and work with parents to help them teach their children those basic early learning skills that really develop the brain. And I know that this is a committee that understands what we're talking about when we're talking about those early learning experiences. So I'm going to turn it over to my testifier to give you the details, but I guess I'm here just to talk about my enthusiasm for it. And also to say this is not new to this body, but it's an organization that we've supported through the years, and it's received bipartisan support. And so we're just in a new phase of being able to get it out into our communities across Minnesota.
Okay, please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Committee Chair Pinto, and thank you, Representative Pryor, as well too. My name is Christy Murray, and I am with Jewish Family and Children's Services of Minneapolis, and I am the program manager of ParentChild Plus. ParentChild Plus is an international program that is based out of New York, and we were able to bring it here to Minnesota in 2006. It's a home visiting program that works with families to promote and creative ways to learn and for children to acquire language through play. It enhances parenting skills, and it helps children to prepare for school. As indicated by the name, ParentChild Plus focuses on parents as their child's first and most important teacher. This is an intensive home visiting program. We begin working with families when children are between the ages of 16 months to 2.5 years old. And we have trained early learning specialists who go into their homes twice a week for 30 minutes for 2 academic years. Each week, we provide an educational book and toy that is the families to keep for their educational library. And of course, I had to bring toys and books with too. So here's just a few examples, and if you want to play with them, go ahead. We are located, our original locations were in the Twin Cities metro area and in Cass County. We were able to more recently expand to other communities in greater Minnesota in St. Cloud, Rochester, and Rice County. This year, we were able to serve 308 children. 186 of those children were here in the Twin Cities metro and 140 of them in greater Minnesota. This program produces great outcomes, and in your packet, you will find the 2021-22 annual report to the Minnesota Department of Education, where our funding is received from the state, and also a handout that kind of highlights more about the program and the families that we're serving. I want to also note we do receive some additional funding through at Jewish Family and Children's Services, and one of our philanthropic funders did some research about the work that we do, and what they found is that for every dollar that our program receives, it has a return on investment of $5.55. So it is definitely worth the investment. We respectfully ask that you support House File 1994. This bill provides a base funding increase, which is needed to sustain the program's recent expansion into greater Minnesota. Currently, our level of base funding is $1.8 million per biennium. In 2017, which was probably when Representative Pryor was able to connect with our program as well too, the legislature passed a one-time appropriation so that we could scale up in greater Minnesota, and we certainly did that. Those funds were able to build partnerships with other nonprofits throughout the state. In Rochester, we were able to connect with Intercultural Mutual Assistance Association. In St. Cloud, we partnered with Promise Neighborhood of Central Minnesota. And in Rice County, we're working with Healthy Communities Initiative, and we're serving in both Faribault and Northfield.
And I should say we've got 2 more testifiers and only 3 minutes total. So probably should wrap up if you can.
Okay, sounds good. In August of 2021, the state of Minnesota provided a one-time rescue plan appropriation for expanding to these sites, and that funding will be ending in 2023. Our current level of base funding directs expenses for about 176 families each year, and we are serving about 300 across all 5 sites. House File 1994 would provide $1.8 million increase per biennium, bringing ParentChild Plus base funding to $3.6 million per biennium. This increase is needed in order to sustain the programming that we have been able to expand across the state. And we're very grateful to the governor's administration, to the Minnesota Bold Literacy Initiative that includes this increase in the base funding. I am going to turn it over to our other testifiers. I just want to also direct you to your packets that one of our Greater Minnesota partners from Rochester, there is a letter of support from Armin Budimlik, who is the executive director from Rochester, and then we'll have Leslie Lamone come up to share her testimony from Rice County.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll invite the testifiers to come out. Actually, so we've got about 2 minutes for both, 1 minute per testifier at this point. It's pretty tight on time. I do appreciate you pointing out those. The testifier makes her way up to members that this proposal is in the governor's budget proposal. And I want to highlight that as we have individual bills up. So welcome, and please identify yourself. And again, we're very tight on time. My apologies, but please identify and proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Pinto and members of this committee. My name is Leslie Limon, and I'm the director of ParentChild Plus in Rice County, and also a Growing Up Healthy coordinator. In 2019, we launched the ParentChild Plus program, and we served 15 families. We are currently serving 56 families in Northfield and Faribault, and we serve a diverse community. The majority of the families that we work with are Spanish speaking only. We do have staff that are bilingual, English and Spanish. We go in the home, we bring a toy or a book weekly, we sit with the parent, we model what reading time or playtime should look like. A lot of the families have never had a book in their home.
I'm going to I invite you to back off a tiny bit from the microphone. It's a little bit loud.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. No, just it's picking you up very well. Yeah.
Have never had a book or a toy in the home. So when we're there, we show the parents how to play, how to read. We also have books and toys the books that are in Spanish. So we're there to model. Besides that, we're also there to identify any resources that they may need. We help them get connected to resources within the community. We provide the tools, and our goal is to empower the families so that they're able to navigate themselves through the system and they're able to be self-sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks. And to our final testifier, please identify yourself and proceed.
My name is John Smith. I'm from Promise neighborhood of Central Minnesota. I'm the executive director. Thank you, Chair Pinto and other committee members. We started our after-school programming 8 years ago, and a year later we realized that we need to push back a little further because the kids were coming to us with multiple issues in first grade, in kindergarten, and second grade. We've had a huge impact, not just with kids being better prepared for academically for school, but additionally our kids are experiencing less out of school time and out of class time because of behavior. Our parents and siblings in the home have improved mentoring and parenting skills, along with skills to be teachers, parents as first teachers. We've been able to hire and train community members that have been involved with our organization. And we just would like to continue to get the support from you all. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Thanks to both of you for your really important work. Are there any other members of the public who wish to testify on the bill? Okay, not seeing none. So member questions or discussion? Representative Lesnicar. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Chair Pinto, and thank you, Representative Pryor. My question is, this has been a established evidence-based program, is what I understand, which is wonderful. Have you found, is this program requiring four-year degrees right now?
And actually, before you answer it, I forgot about this. If I can ask the pages, maybe you could pass around the little the things that you have in front of you, Ms. Thomas.
The books and toys?
Yeah, the books and toys. Yeah, I figured members would probably want to look at that. So you just hand that. No, just hold on. You've got a page coming to get it from you. Yeah. Okay, but then the question for Representative Lesnicar was about four-year degrees. If you could answer that. Yeah, pass it.
Thank you for your question. It is not a requirement of ParentChild Plus for our early learning specialists to have a four-year degree. The supervisors, there is an education requirement, but there is a requirement of at least 16 hours of training that is geared towards preparing them, and then we do ongoing training at our weekly team meetings as well too. So it is not a requirement for them to have a four-year degree.
Representative Lesnicar.
Thank you, Chair Pinto, and thank you. How many years has your program been in existence?
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Murray, pardon me, I have the mixing up. Ms. Murray, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Committee Chair, and thank you, Representative. It's an international program based out of New York, and they established the program in 1965. So there is a long history of evidence-based research that went into the development of this program. And as you can see on some of the handouts, there has been tracking of children that have been a part of this program that their high school graduation rates increased by over 30% compared to students who do not go through this program. And also the children are 50% more likely to be ready for kindergarten and 50% less likely to need special education by the third grade.
Representative Lesnicar.
Thank you, Chair Pinto, and thank you. I'm amazed since 1965. That's a lot of experience, and that's a lot of evidence-based that we have for the state of Minnesota. And it seems to me that if you were to, if you had to have a 4-year degree, would it affect how many people would be able to be employed in your operation to serve the people?
Ms. Murray.
Yes, thank you, Committee Chair, and thank you, Representative. It would greatly impact that, because one of the things that we value is being able to hire from within the communities that we're serving, and so we are able to provide our programming in English, Spanish, Somali, and Russian this year. We also have provided it in Hmong in the past as well too, and by being able to have staff who come from the communities. We also have staff who have actually been graduates of the program who became staff with us, and were able to create a career path for themselves. So we often see this as a two-generation workforce development program.
Representative Lesnicar.
Thank you, Chair Pinto, and thank you for that. I guess I'm really excited to see that it's evidence-based. It's been here since 1965, and you're helping multiple cultures. You're working with a two-prong approach, not just the children, but the parents for the workforce. You're working with people that do English as a second language. I have a friend who's from Ukraine and an interpreter, and so I'm looking at the graduation rates. I'm looking at the reading readiness. It looks like it's 95, 98%, which is pretty good marks. And so congratulations. I mean, I just think that having flexibility and having the right people be able to, education is one mark of what we're going to have for children. But as the pediatricians earlier said, that heart, that experience, that smile, that personality that a supervisor can interview for, I think is showing that it's been successful. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative, for bringing forth this bill. I just have a question for the testifier. I noticed on here I serve a portion of Cass County. I'm just curious, what area in Cass County does it serve?
Ms. Murray.
Thank you, Committee Chair. Thank you, Representative. We are in two different communities in Cass County. So we are in the Reamer area, working with the Northland Family Area Family Service Center, and then also in Pine River Bacchus. But one of the amazing things about the work that they're doing there is it's very rural. And so the early learning specialists are putting on average about 500 miles a week in order to have families that otherwise wouldn't be able to access these early education critical moments and development that these tools that they need. So this really does help to reach everyone in Minnesota.
Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much.
Good. Okay. Not seeing other questions or comments, and so we're going to go to Chair Pryor for the final word on the bill. Chair Pryor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members, for the questions and clarification that my wonderful testifier has been able to provide. It's a program that we like to talk about, love talking about, and are excited to continue forward. I also want to just highlight one of the comments that we heard from a previous testifier. They looked at what, children get to kindergarten, children get to first grade, children get to second and third grade, and say, wow, we did not start soon enough. And so I think that's one of the messages that this bill makes clear and this program makes clear, is that we need to really get down to early childhood and those first months, those first weeks, even those first 1,000 days, and say, how can we support children by, and in this case, supporting families when we're talking about kids that young? And this is a great program for doing it, and really appreciate your support.
Thank you so much, Chair Pryor. And I was glad to hear this bill and then hear that Way to Grow proposal from Representative Hill earlier relating to home visiting. And it's such a powerful, as we've seen from the evidence, it's such a powerful opportunity for families. So, Chair Pryor, thank you, and to the testifier as well, and all the testifiers on this bill for your work. So with that, the Chair lays over House File 1994 for possible inclusion in the committee's budget bill. So members, we are back on tonight at 6:30 with a bunch of bills, so I'll be ready for that. And so with that, the committee stands in recess. Thank you.
job, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Representative Davis.